Hey everyone and welcome. Have you ever found yourself staring at Chapter 7 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, just kind of wondering how all the pieces fit together? Well, if you have, you are definitely in the right place. Our goal today is pretty straightforward. We're going to make sections 147 through 158 crystal clear, show you how they connect, and make them super easy to remember for your exams.
Okay, so how are we going to tackle this? Well, we've got a clear roadmap. We're going to kick things off with the biggest offense, waging war. Then, we'll look at how the state protects its leaders and its authority. After that, we'll jump over to foreign relations and the rules around prisoners. We'll wrap it all up with a quick but important note on jurisdiction and then a final complete summary. It's a logical flow that's really going to help build your understanding one step at a time. All right, first up, the absolute heart of this chapter, waging war. These initial sections deal with, the ultimate act of aggression against a nation. But just as important, they also cover all the steps that lead up to it.
So, Section 147, this is the big one. It's the bedrock for this entire chapter. And look how broad it is. It doesn't just cover successfully waging war, it also includes the attempt to wage war and even just assisting in the act. It has to be this wide because the threat itself is considered so serious. But think about it for a second. A war doesn't just pop up out of nowhere, right? It starts way before any fighting breaks out. It begins with an idea, with a plan, a conspiracy, and the law is actually structured to address this entire timeline, from the very first thought to the final action. And this slide, it lays out that timeline perfectly. Just look at how these sections logically build on each other. It all starts with step 1, the plan, the conspiracy, which is covered in Section 148. Then you move to step 2, getting the resources, like collecting arms, and that's Section 149. Step 3 is all about secrecy, concealing the design. That's a whole separate offense under Section 150. And all of this leads to the climax, Step 4, the act itself, which brings us right back around to Section 147. It's a complete narrative.
So here's how you lock this in for your exams. Just think of these first few sections as the waging war cluster. For 148, your keyword is conspiracy. For 149, it's preparation. 150 is concealment, and 147 is the act. If you remember them in that logical order, plan, prepare, conceal, act, they become so much easier to recall.
All right, let's move on to our next section. We've seen how the law deals with open warfare, but beyond the battlefield, the state also has to protect its own authority, its leaders, its stability from other kinds of threats.
And this slide gives us a really clean way to think about it. It breaks down these threats to authority into two basic types. On one side, you've got the direct physical threat under Section 151. We're talking about assaulting the president or a governor. And on the other side, you have threats made through expression, which is Section 157, sedition. That one's all about inciting disaffection against the government.
So let's drill down into sedition under Section 157 for a second. The key ingredients are trying to stir up disaffection against the government and doing it through words, signs, or any kind of visual. But, and this is absolutely crucial, look at that last point. The law explicitly says that criticizing government actions to try and get them changed through legal means is not sedition. That is a vital distinction to remember.
Okay, so far we've covered threats against India itself. But what happens when the hostile act isn't aimed at India directly, but at one of its allies? Well, that brings us to the international part of these laws.
Right, and that is the exact question that these next couple of sections are designed to answer. The BNS gets that an attack on a friend can be a serious threat to India's own stability and its interests.
Section 152 is the direct answer. It makes it a crime to commit depredation, which is basically a legal term for plundering or attacking on the territory of any nation that's at peace with India. It's like extending a legal shield over India's allies. And of course, there's a follow-up. Section 154 goes after anyone who knowingly receives property stolen during these illegal wars. And notice how it ties everything together. It specifically mentions property taken during a war against India, which is Section 147, or against an allied power, which is Section 152. It closes a huge potential loophole.
Okay, let's change gears a bit. We've talked about the conflict itself, but what about what happens after? Once someone becomes a prisoner of state or a prisoner of war, the state has a duty to keep them locked up. Letting them escape is a very serious offense.
This slide is a great way to see the difference in liability for public servants. You've got Section 155, which is for a public servant who voluntarily, meaning on purpose, lets a prisoner escape.
That's a big deal. Then you have Section 156, which covers a public servant who negligently lets a prisoner get away. The outcome is the same, the prisoner is free, but the difference in intent means a very different level of punishment.
So, you might be wondering, what about regular folks, not just public servants? Well, that's exactly what Section 153 is for. This one applies to anyone who knowingly helps or assists a prisoner of state or war to escape. It's the civilian counterpart to the other two sections.
Okay, we're almost at the finish line. We have one last but super important technical point to cover. Where do these laws even apply? I mean, can they reach beyond the borders of India?
And Section 158 gives us a big, clear yes on that. It's all about extraterritorial jurisdiction. What this means in plain English is that if someone commits one of these offenses outside of India, but the law says they can be tried in India, then they can be punished under this exact code. So, the reach of these laws can be global.
All right, we have covered a ton of ground. So let's pull it all together in one final summary. And seriously, if you're studying for an exam, this is the one slide you are definitely going to want to screenshot. And there it is, your master key for this whole chapter. You've got the waging war cluster from 147 to 150, then protecting authority with 151 and 157, then protecting our allies in 152, and handling the loot in 154. You've got the prisoner escape sections, 153 for everyone, and 155 and 156 for public servants, and finally, the global reach of the law in 158. Each section, one clear keyword. This is exactly how you structure it in your head and on the exam. So let me just leave you with this one final thought. This entire chapter is about one thing, state security. But all of these laws exist in this constant tension with individual rights and freedoms. The question they really force us to ask is a crucial one for any democracy. How do you strike the right balance? How do you protect the nation from very real threats, while also protecting the freedoms of the people who live in it? It's something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.